Did a good job. Well, she will start. So welcome to the Leadership Assembly number 5. I would like to ask among you, how many of you have attended 5 Leadership Assemblies? Could you raise your hand?
All 5?
Wow. All right.
We're here, that's why we can leave now, right?
Let's start in 2008 when Anne Mary was the president. Wow.
Who was that?
Who was that?
Who is that? Yes, Anne Mary here.
We know her.
Who have been in 4? 3. And 2. Wow. And yeah, who are the first time?
First time.
So it's like a car on the freeway. You know, at first it's kind of 25 miles, and then it starts getting to 50, and I think now we are on probably 85 miles per hour. So many people. Okay, as the president of the Executive Council of the Christian Life Community, I hereby convene the National Coordinating Council meeting and the Leadership Assemblies. So we have 19 members in NCC, the National Coordinating Council. Out of the 19, we have 13 new members. I would like to install them at this moment. So when I call your name, please stand up, and then you sit down. And then I will call the new members first, and then I will call the rest. So New England, we have Dan Lebu. Stand up. In the Great Lakes region, Women Great Lakes regions, we have Barbara Rudolph. In the Northwest region, we have Ed Loha. Actually, Ed can migrate from the East Coast to the West Coast, right, to the Northwest. So that is great. Yeah, Portland is my hometown, actually. So Ed is now there, right, Portland, Oregon. On the Western CLC, we have Gary Miskiman. Okay, from KCLC, we have Christine Kim. Christine Kim is currently the president of KCLC, replacing Claire. Okay, we have Teresa Peck. We have Angela Ship. We have Clara Lee. We have Paulina Kim. Okay, from Đông Hành, CLC, we have Ân Mai. President of Đông Hành CLC. He's replaced Kim Anh. A lot of you know Kim Anh, many. She has been attending a lot of leadership assemblies. So. Okay, next is Hương Mai. Christine Chen, Châu Hoan Chen. And we have another member, NCC member from Đông Hành, is Ha Bing, but he could not attend because he got sick the last minute, so he had to cancel. to fly, so pray for him. Okay, now we have the existing member.
Yillian.
Oh, Team Yillian. Okay, Team Yillian.
From Montreal.
Okay, now we have the existing member. Out of the 19 members, we have 13, and we have 13 new ones and six existing members. We have Steve Macy from New York region. We have Christine Zebanowski from We have Ahelia Garcido from South Florida region. We have Jay Berry from North Central region. We have Mary Weskovich from Missouri region. And we have New Orleans region is Carmen Castaño. She's absent because the last minute of change, her cousin just passed away. So pray for the family. Carmen's cousin. Yeah. So that's what we have for our NCC. Welcome our NCC. They have a heavy job to do this weekend. So please pray for them. All right. So. With that, I would like to introduce the members of EXCO. We have, as I call your name, you just stand up. We have Liam, Lei. And he told me before I got up here, he told me, you make sure you tell that I have only 3 more days. So you can see you have a big smile. And we have Paula Urban as secretary. We have Steve Gray as treasurer. We have Father Jim Barberly as the national ecclesial assistant. And they are working very hard to put everything here together. If you need anything, please go to any of us, and we will accommodate the best we can. We also, I would like to also introduce a special group that they work. If I, as an engineer, I have my engineering background, I have to put some numbers. Yes. So they have spent almost 3,000 hours cumulative of 7 people, including the one person from EXCO, 5 person from the working group, and 1 person as our process guy. 3,000 hours. There have been, if I count it, it's like 30 days, working days. If you lock them at a place, like the spiritual exercise. Not 5 hours a day praying, but they're working like 12 hours a day, continuously, and a lot of teleconference. So I would like to introduce the co-chair, Rick Kunkel. Claire, where is Claire? We have Rosita Masu. We have Maria Rouse. And we have Chun Hong. And myself, I am also a co-chair for the working group with Rick. And we have the process guy, and he's also working very hard with us, Father Jim Barberly. Okay, so a lot of names. That is a test for all of us this weekend. I think that by the second day or third day, we may have our name tag on the other side, blank, and we try to remember all of the names. We are a community, right? we have several. I think after 5 years of Leadership Assembly, I learned quite a few names. Okay, so let me do a little bit of opening. This is the 5th Leadership Assembly, and this is what I can call it is the major turning point of the 3 years discernment process. When I talk about this the 3 years, this is the last 3 years, but actually the organization process, or what I call the transformation journey, do you know when did it start? A quiz. When did it start? In
2004.
Miami, right? Yes, Miami at the National Assembly, when Đồng Hành joined the CLC-USA. We have KCLC at that time was 8 years old, but very vibrant community, a lot of new members. So, and it's about the time, sometimes I use the analogy of how suddenly, our brothers and sisters in the, I call it Anglophone. It may not be the right term, but I think the best is I can come up. And they have a house, and they live there happy, and suddenly there's a bunch of people say, hey, can I come and join you? And, the very nice brothers and sisters say, sure, come and be in one family with us. So they open the door. It's amazing. It's not 10 people. It's not 100, but they come in like there's about more than 1,000. They come into the house. So now you share all the rooms and everything you have, all the treasure you have with the new members. But you know what? We need to do a better way and organize ourselves so that we can be an effective one body. It's still like we still have giving rooms, but we may still eat our own meal. We still eat, do our own activities. But from time to time we get together and say, hi, how are you doing? And it's not a family. It's not one community. And when we are looking for doing something in common, well, we're all busy. Different groups have different works, and they go, no, I don't have time. I have other priority. So I've been in that transformation journey since 2004, and it has been 8 years, but I tell you, brothers and sisters, this is not the end. I think that we still have many, many more years, but we are on the journey already. So it is a turning point, and I hope this leadership assembly will be the conclusive step, of 3 years of listening. You know that the last 3 years, it's like we are taking, speeding with a lot of more activities, more events. And we also start looking at, okay, with the guiding principles that we had in 2010, with say, let's go and see what will be the best we can to get an effective, organized body. And here we are, we asked the working group to come, as a group to look at all the guiding principles, come up with a framework. Last year they came in with a framework, and there was a proof. They went back to work some more and get more details on the framework, and here they are this year, here to pretty much present a proposal. And the assembly will involve prayerful discernment. It is a communal discernment with the NCC, the National Coordinating Council, and the CLC leaders are here to help also in the discernment, discernment process. We ask the leaders to come here for a good reason, very important reason, because the NCC by itself, the National Coordinating Council by itself, is not sufficient enough to embody grassroots community. We want to hear the voice of the community, so you're all here to help in the communal discernment. So we have a lot of work to do, and especially during this Leadership Assembly, we also have 2 special events. Besides, the communal discernment of, to get the organization structure, but we will have a commitment ceremony on Friday. If you look at the agenda, and this year we are very honored to have Daniela Frank, the World CLC President. She will be here. And she will be here to attend with us one day. And she also will preside the commitment ceremony. So in the ceremony, we will have several commitments. First is the permanent commitment of members. This is the first time they do the commitment, permanent. It will be a public in front of the community. We also have the renewal of commitment. Those 2 types of renewal. The first renewal of the members who've been living out the CLC way of life for many, many years, but haven't had a chance to do a public commitment. The commitment in front of community, that they can do it this time. And also the members who have been permanent commitment at their regional communities, they also can do the renewal commitment this time. And on Sunday, the second event is on Sunday we will have the election of the 2 members of the new EXCO, the 2 officers, the president-elect and the treasurer. So that is pretty much a snapshot of what the big events of this weekend. And with that, I would like next is to introduce the working group, because they are working hard. I would like to introduce Rick Kunkel. He will give to all of us the overview of their own discernment, their journey for the last 2 years. So, Rick.
Thanks, Hong. First, I'd just like to say that we're grateful that you're all here. As I shared with a couple of you on the working group, we're just grateful the assembly started. The preparation work is kind of done. We can't prepare anymore for the assembly because it's happening. So we're pretty happy about that. So we're looking forward to our journey together. I think I was asked to share with you a little bit about the journey of the working group over the last couple of years. And I thought one really good way to start that would be to actually ask the members of the working group to say a little bit about themselves and their experience in CLC and the roles they've played, because they really brought that into our discernment. So I think it's helpful for you to get to know who they are and what experience they brought to our discernment process. So I'm going to ask each one of you to maybe stand up and say a little bit about your roles and experience in CLC. Do I have volunteers, or do I need to call on someone? Go ahead, True.
Hi, my name is True Pham. I'm a member of the CLC. I live in Southern California. And I'm more drawn into this process because I have some background in technical. And I can be behind and do the support work by the other people. To sit down and think about different good ideas and behind to support them, clean up, and bring them the beverage or refreshment.
So True was being a little. You could have said more, True, but I do want to point out True was on the original committee, so he's been on this process for 8 years. As well as doing a lot of formation work and a lot of everything going on. Go ahead, Claire.
My name is Claire Mang. I'm coming from the CLC Korean the community. I joined this working group as just a co-discerner. So just what we're gonna do, and we just have to discern. So I just worked as a discerner, yes. And I'm just happy to finish. 3 days.
And you were president, right, Claire?
I just got off the president of the, CLC. That I served 4 years, but I just, new president from the May is Christine.
And you were on NCC, right? During your presidency?
No, I'm not in NCC anymore.
When you were?
Yeah, I were. I was.
Don't be too humble. You need to share all the good, Marianne.
This will be hard for you to believe, but I am not representing Donghan or KCLC or South Florida. So why was I chosen, or asked, I guess? The color of my hair will indicate something.
At least you have hair.
I've been privileged to be a member of Christian Life Communities for more years than many of you have been around, which is delightful for me to look and see that. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. My husband and I have 3 children, all grown, another surprise. Our baby, who is 42, was just married for the first time at 42. Wow. Let's see. I was a national president from 81 to 83. Several others are in the crowd here, however. My husband was a national president also in the 70s. So we've lived in this house that Hung described a long time. And we're delighted. We prayed for years. I can look at Marie, there you are, and Barbara, that we would reach people who weren't obviously not Vietnamese or Donghan or South Florida or those things, but something other than the bland color. And here we are. It's just a thrill. So I've been wonderfully blessed to be in the working group, and the fact that we now, after 2 years, still joke or are able to joke about the fact that I still can't say people's names anywhere near correctly, but I continue to try, and count as some of my best friends. That particular group of people and those who sent me. Thank you.
My name is Rosita. I am from South Florida. I have the privilege to be in that working group. As Clara said, I was there to discern, to help other people to discern. They have been a blessing for me, as he said. And I learned a lot of structures because I was there by default, I think. But I am being blessed, in South Florida, we do a lot of work, and I think we can also enrich a little bit of the working group with the experience that we have down there, because we are all in the same city. That's something that is a privilege to be near each other. All the communities are in the same city. That's good for everyone. And then when here I am, and to serve everybody, I'm very happy to be here.
With True was on the D&O committee from the beginning, so she's been on this journey for the whole time. And for those that don't know me, I'm the chair of the Northwest region currently. I was on NCC from 1998 to 2003. So I thought it was helpful to share that because in a lot of ways, each of us brought that experience and our love of CLC into our working group discernment. And so our journey together was really trying to kind of meld that experience into a shared vision of what CLC can be. And to be honest, the result that we came up with is really different than I could have imagined when we began our journey together. So I really feel like the Spirit moved in us as we move forward. And there were certainly struggles along the way, but in the end, I'm excited to be able to share what we've developed and proposed for you. Just to give you a little bit of chronology, I look back at some of our meeting notes. We met once a month by teleconference, and then we had 4 in-person meetings in Houston. So I had like 8 pages of brief notes of all those meetings, and so I was kind of trying to scan through those. And then there's my little notebook here that I started when this all began, and there are about 8 pages left on it. So I don't know if I'll fill that out by the end here or not. We'll see. So there was a lot that happened on that journey. But we began in September of 2010 with our first teleconference, just kind of beginning, and we really spent our initial time in our initial meeting getting to know each other, learning a little bit about each other and how to work together effectively and who we are, and really trying to figure out what the heck we were supposed to be doing. In some ways it's a very daunting task, so I think some of us came into this with a lot of trepidation, but I think we're also very hopeful. I can recall at our first kind of installation mass at our first in-person meeting at Hong's house in Houston, Father Cause was with us then. So we had a little mass, and the reading there was that reading from Philippians, which I think has shown up in some of our readings. And in many ways, it's really become something that's a little bit of something special to us. I'll just read it because I think it's important. The reading is from the first chapter of Philippians, and it says, "This is my prayer, that your love may increase ever more and more in knowledge and every kind of perception, to discern what is of value, so that you may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God." So I'd really say that love really permeated a lot of what we experienced, and we felt that amongst ourselves, but we also felt that from our community. Just being in Houston, the support we got from the local Houston community, and really support from many of you, praying for us, following along. And I think that helped us carry through in those moments where we kind of felt a little bit lost. We spent a fair amount of time working with our current reality, both the gifts and the graces there, but also some of the desolation. Most of us are involved in leadership, so, we've experienced some of that dysfunction in our organization. And so there can be some desolation around that. I'm really trying to grapple with what that means. And really, how do we respond to that? But I think, there was always that love and that hope along the way, and really looking at what are the options here from our current experience. So we really drew on where we're at right now. We relied a lot on the general principles to identify options and opportunities. And then it was really a process of finding where the confirmation was in that, and where the disagreement was, and keep working through that, clarifying, kind of an iterative process that emerged in the framework, in the working documents, and so forth. So that was kind of our journey together. And we spent a fair amount of time on how we share that with the body. So, we did develop the website. We did the survey, the consultant groups, the various working documents, and so forth, really to try to share that with you as best we could. And we know we didn't do as good a job with that as we perhaps would have liked. But we are very much appreciative of the support that many of you gave to us. And even searching through some of that history, and we'll share some of that with you, some of the things from the past that we drew on. But let me just conclude by saying that as a working group, we really have a desire to share with you our discernment. We pray that we're able to share the fruit of our discernment in a way that helps you to understand what process we went through, so that you're invited to be part of that discernment with us. And also having the ability to explain to you our discernment without feeling like we're trying to defend it. Because we're not. We want to be able to have the freedom for you to hear what we're sharing without being defensive about that, and the freedom for you to discern the future course as a leadership body and as the NCC. So with that, I think I'm going to hand this over. With that, I think I'm going to go ahead and hand this over. I'm going to hand this over to Father Jim Borbely, who with Lois Campbell are going to be the process guys for the weekend. And so he's going to give you a little bit about that.
To have a guide for this communal discernment process. The guide really keeps the focus on what the movements of spirit are, where ideas and thoughts are coming from, and half of the guide is here tonight, me. The other half is someone that many of you know very well, Lois Campbell, who has a prior commitment in Erie. She will be joining us in the morning. And Lois and I have known one another for almost 30 years and worked together on many things. She has great communal discernment skills, I think, herself. So we will be teaming up in whatever fashion the Spirit moves us to help give you some guidance on reflection, small group, and the large group sharing of what is surfacing within you, particularly when we come to the elements of discernment that are really the sifting, the sorting out of advantages and disadvantages. At the second Leadership Assembly, some of you may remember that we shared a visual of the process of communal discernment. And so we're going to we're going to give you something that we'll be working with over the course of the assembly. So the essential elements or dynamics of communal discernment. Those are the last two groups. These might be familiar to you from other ways of saying it, other experiences. The visual on the one side, the visual handout, the circle, identifies not so much steps that you leave behind, but things that flow one into the other in a constant dynamic. The first three are something that we're going to trust that not only the prayer activities in the morning and the liturgies, but your own personal faith life will bring into the communal dynamic of discernment. It needs to be an explicit stance of faith, for sure, that you're looking for guidance from God, from the Holy Spirit. And the second point, that you're aware that you don't have everything clear. You need light, and everyone has certain attachments of one kind or another, certain preferences, and some of them may need to be let go of. The desire for a certain amount of familiarity and security, I think, is God-given in our human nature, but at a certain point, if we're following the way of Jesus, things need to be left behind. Seeking the greater spiritual freedom, I think, is very much a biblical principle. Especially in the Old Testament. Remember that God has been with you all these years since God led you out of Egypt, and even before. I think this graphic then will continue the process of the issue, looking for understanding and information. Some of that will be provided by the explanations of the working group. And we'll spend some time really in a formal process of sorting out the reasons against or the disadvantages of each piece of what's being presented, and then look together at the advantages, collaboratively. Everyone working, doing your best to shoot the proposition out of the water, all the disadvantages, and then together see what the advantages are. And that's what's brought together in the discernment process. Where are the principal disadvantages and advantages? Sometimes I've seen, working with groups in communal discernment, that the people who are most gung-ho for a certain proposition, a certain direction, are clearest about what the disadvantages are. So I expect everybody to be able to chime in. The working group will not be part of the small group dynamic. They'll give you their best insights into what's being proposed, but that would weigh the matter too much in the dynamic of groups. They're not defending the proposition, they're just offering it to you in pieces throughout the process. So we'll go through that process several times in the course of the coming days. As I said, Lois and I will give you some guidelines for how you might navigate through that process. And we'll be trying to help you notice when things seem to be, even times of not particularly great clarity, but a certain amount of being willing to take the next step, a certain amount of peace with where things lie. And when things are giving evidence in the dynamic of the group of a disturbing spirit that's not of God. Helping you, in the experience of the assembly, actually to do your own monitoring of the movements of spirit. And we'll be seeking consensus, whatever the consensus may be, to present the clarities to the NCC in a formal deliberation on Sunday. In the end, a lot of the things that are being presented are going to be not the details that will allow a system of organization to be adopted. I'd like to make a very clear distinction. What kind of a decision is likely to be facing the NCC? Most of us, when we are thinking about discernment, including Jesuits, we jump right somewhere into the second week, we set up what we need to do, and then try to make the decision. There are first week issues, always, that flow into the decision, come up in the third week, fourth week dynamic, for those of you that are familiar with the exercises. I think it could be helpful to see that what is being discerned and the consensus is not like a formal, fully detailed reform of life that occurs toward the end of the second week dynamic of the exercises. The issue really now, having gone through some graced history, remembering and acknowledging some things are not working well everywhere in the body, everywhere in the national community. Regions are stumbling, people are wondering how things fit together, is this working? I think the choice really that lies before the group is more like the offering to the call of Christ. That's the transition between the first week and the second week. It's a willingness to go forward and consider the details of what God is revealing as we continue to contemplate Christ in our experience. It's just, I think, honestly, beyond the reach of the NCC and this body, and it's not in the details of what's being offered, how this is going to work. Practically speaking, adopting a comprehensive reorganization will mean revising the national statutes, and none of them have been touched by the working group. So it's really a matter of being willing to go forward and work out the details over the next few years. The decision, is this the direction we want to move in? It's a following of Christ and a trusting and a generous openness to what is still yet to be worked out, what's still yet to be revealed. Nothing can be dropped onto the body. It has to grow into that freedom in every area. And so it's more helpful not to think that this is a constitutional assembly. It really is. Are we going in the right direction? Are we being called to follow this particular path that's been outlined, not knowing exactly how it's all going to fit together in working details. There's no job descriptions for different things that are being proposed. There's no exact details for operating different elements of a service system. It's more helpful to see, are these stepping stones being offered by the working group leading us to where God seems to be calling us? It's a directional discernment, not an adoption of a new system. It's just way ahead of the information that would be required for that. Even after that's adopted, there's a third week. So the consideration of advantages and disadvantages will be much more along the lines of, can we see this as something we have to continue to explore and develop? I think even more critical to realize whatever clarities have come up in these leadership assemblies and this year is the tip of the iceberg. The only real transition that's going to make any difference, the only real transformation, is not at the level of ideas and organizational theory. It's in the membership that's not here. The biggest challenge is going to be for leadership to accompany people to have communal discernment about these same matters over the next several years, even as the journey continues. And so hopefully, from this experience and from even the experience of Lois and myself working with you, there'll be some sense that the main thing that has to come out of the assembly is leadership helping the body to wrestle with these issues, which will touch on everything from membership to the question of a governing body. It's a real review of life for the body that lies ahead. That's where the transformation process will happen, because that's where the operative grace will need to be, so that the national community can live out new ways of relating to one another for apostolic mission. So that's my sales pitch for communal discernment. You have some more details on the back side of your paper, a little more explanation of what this is about, but hopefully it'll make more sense in the experience. And hopefully for most of us, it will be one of a great number of experiences of DSSE.
Have to understand application before we moving forward. So I would like to ask Liam to come up here and present some points on our CLC vocation. So Liam. But you still have to work until Sunday.
Thank you. Can you tell I'm from Washington, D.C.? See, everybody have, look at this, and I have this. Sure. So I tried to be a little bit, so I left my belt off. So now, if you read that already, we're going to jump right into step 3. Is that okay? on that new sermon circle? Is that okay?
Don't hear you.
We're going to jump right into step 3. Your Father Jim over there said, no, no, no. But I have the mic. So I would like to ask you that these papers are more important than what you have. So, you know why? Because we have only just very short amount of time to do this first exercise. And you think I'm going to do the exercise for you? No, you will do it. So, I'm going to pass these things out, and you pay attention to this, okay? All right. When you get this thing, glance over, okay? the values of things we have in our hands until somebody get it and they discover it. Would there be, that couple who found out that they gave away that painting? Just imagine that. Can you imagine? They have this painting rolled up in the closet for years. So, freedom is about knowing what values we have in our hands and give it away. Knowing full well the value that we have and give it away. So, this is my own reflection. So I ask you to walk with me, because we're not going to have time to do reflection after this. What we're going to do with this is, after we have this walk along reflection, we're going to have 5 minutes. 5 minutes of your own personal reflection. Then we're going to have try it. The three sit together and share what comes out of you. All right, for 15 minutes. Then we have plenary, big group sharing. So from the individual, we come to collectively awareness of our values. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So I ask that you just walk along with me, but pay attention to your own journey. Your own journey. So we're going to do 3 things at one time in that thing. An attitude coming into this thing, right? And then at the end, we would like to have the value, knowing the value of the things that God has put in our hands. CLC, at the beginning, it was not CLC, right? Somebody here, like Man Rouse, I'm pretty sure she was deep in CLC when I was not in CLC at all. And at the moment, it was not called CLC. It was called the Army of Mary. Or the other word is Sodalities of Mary, I believe. Short Sodalities. So I'm going to use the word Sodalities, okay? At the beginning, now, anybody here know that Ignatius and Francis Xavier were arch enemies? They were shooting at each other. Did anybody know that? I found this out, though. You went there, so you know, don't answer. I found this out because I went on a pilgrimage. I went to Javier, the birthplace of Francis Xavier, not too far away from Pamplona or Loyola. But from the point that they were arch enemies, ready to kill one another, met at University of Paris. And just because the love of Christ, just for the love of Christ, they became such a close friends. Did you know that Francis Xavier went to East Asia, knowing full well that he would never see his first companions again? So he wrote down on a piece of paper, the first, is it 7 or 9, I don't remember, the first companions who found the Jesuit, and put it right here under his vest, on top of his heart. Can you imagine that? We should do that. You know? That's how close these two arch enemies have become because of the love of Christ. And that was the root of sodality, later become CLC. That was the beginning. Before they became priests, the love of Christ have formed them, just like Christ. So CLC or sodalities took root way back then. So there are many Jesuits here, but there's many more lays of us here. So I can say that the sodalities give birth to the Jesuit and not the other way around. Okay.
Okay.
I need some support here. Okay, so Sodalities and the Jesuits form a great relationship. After Ignatius passed away, a young, I don't know whether he was a priest yet, John Louis?
John Louis.
Scholastic. He was just a scholastic. And he formed the first sodalities. And you know what happened? Sodalities at that time, 400 years ago, no, 450 years ago, 450 years ago, wrote it in the bylaws that the lay is self-governed. They were way ahead of Vatican II, like 400 years ahead. Isn't that amazing? You know, the Jesuit is amazing bunch with audacious ambitions. They're small, but no, we're going to change the world. How are we going to do that? We're going to teach them. We're going to open schools. We're going to form them with Christ in the middle of their heart. They have schools for children of kings, of all these monarchies. 5 minutes? I don't care. Do you? You want to listen to me or 5 minutes? Anyway, how would that be a discernment? Now, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, they have their audacious plan to teach people and inform people, but that's not good enough. There's sodalities. There's this French historian wrote this wonderful book called Europe of the Devout. And in there, he's analyzed everything about sodalities and the Jesuits. And he said that at the moment, at that time, nobody can advance in Europe if he or she was not part of CLC. Because they have communities for up here, and they have communities for people down at the very bottom of society. The Jesuits have permeated entire stratification of society. It's amazing. And he has this theory that the Society of Jesus was suppressed, not because of their liberal theology, but because it's so powerful. Not because they are powerful, but because sodalities were so powerful. So the Jesuits get suppressed because of political intrigue and because of the wealth and the power that it be able to influence society. The monarchies want to destroy that. Actually, they want to destroy the church. At that moment, there's no such thing as the College of Cardinals convened at the Sistine Chapel, you know. No, there's no such thing. So there's this discussion of which one that we're gonna vote to be Pope. And all these monarchies has influence. So there's this one families in Europe say that, you know, I'm gonna vote for this fellow to be Pope if he promised that after he got elected, he would suppress the Jesuit. Because with the Jesuit suppressed, the monarchies can take out everybody, right? So finally, everybody agreed, and he got elected Pope. You know what happened? I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So more pressure, right? So it's okay, all right, I'll do it. But he's sneaky. He was sneaky. He did not really disband the Jesuit. He said, okay, it's up to the bishop. If they cannot be who they're supposed to be, then they cease to function. You know what happened? The Queen of Russia, Catherine the Great, loved the Jesuit. So she told the bishop, no, don't do it. Let them be. So Moscow became the center. And people, a lot of Jesuits moved there, but one. maybe more, but this one fellow, Pignatelli. You probably know about Saint Pignatelli. He refused to move to Russia. He stayed in Rome without faculties. You know, he cannot function as a priest. But he befriended the Pope. Can you imagine this guy? With one single purpose is to restore the Jesuit. And he talked to the Pope, and before the Pope get exiled to France, he said, okay, you can go ahead and accept the novitiates. You know, you do that. So, the Pope who suppressed the Jesuit rescued sodalities. Without the Jesuit, it would be gone. So the Pope said, okay, this is so good for the church, let's move them into the diocese. But it preserved the name, but the soul was lost. Not too long after that, Society of Jesuits was formed, restored, but sodality is no longer underneath that. Can I have more time? You asked me to do this, not my idea. Anyway, so years after years, think about it. In Progressio, I just read this not too long ago. There is one paragraph, it was just beautiful. What does it say? CLC doesn't exist only by the will of a few who decide to associate, but rather because of the special grace of the Spirit, which created it, so that the church can grow. Can you imagine somebody have the audacity to write this? We exist so that the church can grow. Can you imagine? But then that's a value, is it? Are we embracing these values? What do we do to help the Church of America to grow? How do we do that? A bunch of us here. Are we special? No. But why do we have these values in our hands? What do we do with it? Years after years, if it's the will of one, it would be lost. Years after years. 1948, one member of Sodality who became Pope issued an apostolic constitution for Sodalities to be restored. You know, I read it up. What's a constitution? It's amazing. When the Pope issued a constitution, he committed the entire church for the cause. It's not just a letter. It's a commitment. The Pope and the Holy See put it out to all the bishops saying, this is what we embrace. A constitution. We issued that for sodality to be restored. Well, 1948. Fast forward a little bit, 1962. Everybody knows what happened in 1962, right? Vatican II. And right after that, a new wave, a new spirit of laity flowed through the church. And sodalities got restored. At the time, it was still called sodalities. It was under the Society of Jesus. Now, talk about freedom. Think about it. One day, Arupe and Father Pelosin, he is the last EA for sodalities and the first EA for CLC. The two of them, maybe there's some lay in the leadership, I don't know. But the question came up, where do we belong? Are we belong in the society or we belong to the church? Imagine that. After you long for something for so long, years after years, hundreds of years, and you say, no, this doesn't belong to us, it belongs to somebody else. Can you imagine the freedom? Do we have that freedom? Do we hold something dear so much that we don't see the vision? And they took this to the Pope. Paul VI, and they share with us. And the Pope said, oh, wonderful, let me have it. Transition, radical, from somewhere belong to society, now it belongs to the Holy See. That's why CLC is a pontifical institute. It's a pontifical institute. You know how many lay organization is pontifical? Right? How's that? 2. Only 2.